Shelley thought for a moment before screaming. Ah!
V rolled her eyes at your request, yet gave you what you wanted. She took a deep breath before screaming longer this time. Ah!
Again, but still had that smirk on her face as she took a deep breath in. Once she had taken that breath in, she let out an ah!
He looked surprised by your sudden request. He's hesitant at first, but eventually starts screaming to the top of his lungs, causing a slight echo in the elevator. Ah!
Sprout sighed yet smiled and shrugged. It was such a weird request, but it wasn't difficult to do. All right, here I go. Ah!
Pebble looked at you, wondering about the reasons behind your strange request, but in his mind, seeing no harm in screaming, he took a deep breath first before doing so. Ah!
He screamed as loud as he could. Ah!
Shrimpo would smirk before taking a deep breath, filling his lungs. He'd then proceed to scream at the top of his lungs, his voice echoing through the playground. Ah!
Finn giggled a little at the simplicity of the request, raising an eyebrow, but nonetheless, he compiled. All right, here we go. He took a breath. Ah!
Of course, dear. Tegan clears her throat and then...
Gliston smiled more, then he screamed loudly. Ah!
He seems a bit startled by the question, but obliges.
Bobbette, okay. Bobbette cleared her throat a little and nodded slightly, taking a deep breath and Bobbette. Ah!
Ginger looked at you in disbelief before she took another deep breath and yelled, Kah!
He looked at you for a moment, then smiled. Sure, he got in position, and then in the girliest, cutest, squealish voice he can, he squealed out, "Oh, COS-CHANNNN!" He
Razzle's cheeks lightly flushed as they took a deep breath again, preparing themselves. After a few seconds, they let out an even louder, even high-pitched screech.
Ka! She then looks up at you.
Flutter looks at you with a dumbfounded expression, but decides to do it anyway. Ah! It's...
Cole sighed. Cole, fine. Cole had her eyes closed as she let out a scream.
Scraps looked at you dumbfounded again and paused for a moment, letting out an exasperated sigh, but then nodded. She once again cleared her throat and yelled out. Ah! She held...
He groaned in annoyance. This is very embarrassing for him. Gah! He thought for a few moments before opening his mouth and screaming, Gah!
Boxton raised an eyebrow at you, but did what you asked. He took a deep breath. Ah!
Her eyes widened with excitement, loving the idea of screaming. Toodles, as loud and high-pitched as possible, let out a scream of, "Ah!"